do this all day. A bunch of a-holes. Truth is, I am Ironheart.
Hello and welcome to the Infinity Saga and Beyond podcast. This is a Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and I have special guest Matt Hartgrove today.
Hey there, how's it going?
Going good. We're going to be talking a whole bunch. I'm sure if you are a Marvel fan that listens to podcasts, you have not been able to escape the Disney Investor Day recaps and the Disney Investor Day news that has been going around. Or if you're just a Disney fan in general, it was a big day on Thursday, December 10th. Lots of news to get to. We're focusing on the MCU here. And just a little announcement as well. WandaVision premiering January 15th. My friend Casey McGeorge from my other podcast, my Superstore podcast, The Break Room, a Superstore fan podcast, is going to be joining me to break down those, I think it's 6 episodes of WandaVision weekly. And then we'll be breaking down Falcon and Winter Soldier at some point as well. So let's get into it. But first, Matt, tell the people a little bit about yourself here. How did you get into the MCU? And what is it about it that has spoken to you?
I think, it's crazy is the first movie I saw was Avengers. I think I saw it. Avengers. When did Avengers officially come out? I'm never good with dates, and I always forget.
2012, May of 2012.
2012. So I'm pretty certain. I can't. My memory's already pretty bad, but I know I saw Avengers before I saw any of the other ones, and I was like, "Oh, this is really cool." I enjoy when movies. I always enjoyed when movies or TV shows kind of did I don't want to say a group project type of deal where, the crossovers, but that's what it looked like to me. It was these different people coming in. And then when the two of us were working down in Disney for the college program, that's when I finally started watching. I think I saw Iron Man. I saw Captain America. I didn't actually see Hulk. I didn't see the original Hulk movie or the one with, I think it's Edward Norton. I don't think I saw that until actually
Incredible
2018. Hulk. Yeah, I was always told I don't have to watch it, so I just never really did. I did eventually watch it before Infinity War. I tried to do a whole watch thing before it, but didn't end up doing too well. Got through the first 4. But I was I didn't start until then, and then I just got really into it because I think I just enjoyed I enjoyed the actors, but I also enjoyed how they portrayed the characters. I loved Iron Man because of his humor, of how smart he was. Captain America just seemed like he's the all-American good guy. And even though I was more of an Iron Man fan, I still really enjoyed watching Captain America. It was just fun watching them interact and learn about their backstories. And so it just kind of continued on to a point where now I would say I'm probably bigger as a fan of Marvel than I am of any other type of series that Disney or any movie company has created. I don't think it's even really close. Star Wars is kind of getting there, but Marvel has just overtaken. I could watch any Marvel movie any night. I could easily do it if I was able to.
Yeah, so I think I never know which one it is I lean more into because, I'm a big Star Wars fan, big Marvel fan. But I feel like I almost got that answer during this presentation because I was much more excited and smile on my face the whole time during the Marvel panel than the Star Wars panel. And I think there was a lot of good Star Wars stuff listed, but I think part of that problem is with a lot of the Star Wars stuff announced is it's a lot of characters that we already know, a lot of that kind of stuff. when one thing that I'm really excited about with this is that they announced a whole bunch of stuff that we have no idea about, and we'll see how a lot of that stuff plays out.
Yeah, there seems to be more of a way to expand with Marvel than there does with Star Wars, and I do also think sometimes I know there's a lot in the comics, and I've never read a comic book about anything in my entire life. But I mean, you could already tell with how everything they do. There's so much more in the comics, but I also just think that it's somewhat. I'm not trying to sound rude, but in a way, it's easier to expand with Marvel because I feel like Marvel fans have been a little less critical sometimes than I
Correct.
feel like I've heard Star Wars fans. Because like if something is Star Wars and it's not made like to a T how they want a Star Wars movie or TV show to come out and just be like, oh my God, this is exactly what we wanted. They did everything right. Like Marvel, you could kind of tell with the different characters that their individual movies are also just the way they're set up, their background, their story depicted, like the way they run the whole movie is different. You know, you get people like Iron Man who's a little bit more sarcastic, and you can kind of see that in the movies, but he's also the smartest one. And you see all of that, but you also see Captain America. You don't really get the same sarcastic humor, but you get what makes him who he is in his movies. And then you get, you know, Black Panther, you got everything about Wakanda, and you got everything kind of going into the background of him, why he is who he is. Yeah, there's the, you know, funny bits every once in a while, but they do such a great job of explaining their characters through the movie and how they set up the movie and how they write the movies. And I just think that's what's fun is that, you know, if you're going to see Ant-Man with Paul Rudd, like there's going to be a little bit more comedy that you would get instead of seeing, you know, when you went to go see like Winter Soldier or something like that. Like part
Right.
of me didn't expect that. But and I don't know why, but I just enjoy that. I enjoy the fact that each movie is set up and built differently, and they always add in more characters. And it was just a little Easter egg. There's so much that they do. I just think that works better than Star Wars.
Yeah, when you're talking about those Star Wars fans, you know, like you said, they have that. You know, you'll get that vague answer sometimes of it doesn't feel Star Wars, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or you know, where it's tough and where like they'll complain if it's too much fan service, like Rise of Skywalker, which a lot of people complain about that. But yet they also love the fan service and things like, oh, Boba Fett's here in Mandalorian, you know, like. So it's walking a fine line of we want something new, but we also don't for Star Wars. While Marvel,
Mm-hmm.
because I think part of the basis is that these are based off comic books, and they are able to already have a lot of these characters pre-made, and then they just adapt it for TV and movies, and it makes it a little easier, I think, because when people are expecting an adaptation, they're expecting some changes compared to, you know, maybe you creating a brand new Star Wars story for the first time, and people, you know, get a little bit weary about that. So let's get into it here. We're going to start off with 2021, and we're just going to kind of go in order of release
Thank
here,
God,
and then
'cause
we'll talk about the future.
Let's not think about this current year.
This is the
Let's
first
skip ahead
year,
now.
2020, the first year since 2009 without any MCU content.
It felt so empty too.
It did.
It's
Especially
hard to
when you
watch,
think like WandaVision will be the first project we see since Far From Home.
It's crazy. Like I'll watch Infinity War is one of my favorite ones to watch, and I've even kind of watched a little bit of Endgame. I like to skip around Endgame a little bit because there's some parts that I'm just not overly excited to always watch. I just think it drags a little, but I'm watching it going, man, I remember how like trying to get tickets, driving to work,
Yeah.
how crazy it was to see both of those movies when they came out and what they meant to the whole MCU. And then to think this year it was nothing. And obviously it wasn't supposed to be nothing, but it's just like it's weird. It's weird to think how WandaVision, I know we're about to talk about it. It's the first thing to pop up in a while, and it makes it more exciting to actually get to see it.
It's going to be the first thing of Phase 4 is WandaVision. It premieres January 15th, as stated earlier. That is a Friday, if I am correct. Yes, it is, just like the usual Disney Plus releases. Starring Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch, Paul Bettany as Vision, Kat Dennings as Darcy Lewis from Thor and Thor the Dark World, Randall Park as Agent Jimmy Woo. He was in Ant-Man and the Wasp. And Tanya Paris, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Tiana Paris as adult Monica Rambeau. She was the little kid in Captain Marvel. Directed by Matt Shackman and written by Jack Schaefer, who's the head writer of the series. They released the second trailer of WandaVision at the same time here, and this was really like exciting in the sense of we got a lot more content in the Marvel portion than I would have thought, because during a lot of the earlier part of the panels, they were blacking out stuff where it would kind of go to a screen and say like, you know, like it comes back in 2 minutes, because and investors, like the actual big investors, got to see that stuff. But Marvel, I don't think had any of those. It was pretty much all something that we saw when they were showing something. But I'm pumped for WandaVision. We're only a month away at this point. As I stated at the top of the show, we'll be breaking that down weekly here on this podcast. And I'm excited to I'm excited to see Darcy again. I'm excited to see Jimmy Woo again. Like, this is going to be pretty exciting. And the trailer sets up, and they've been releasing these posters weekly, daily as well, leading up to this, where each poster was kind of based on a certain time frame that it seems like the show was going to be going over. So you got like the 50s black and white style that we've seen the 60s style, 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s, which Kevin Feige said that they'll be doing kind of riffs on all those types. And it seems like for some reason they're stuck in this town, and I guess Vision is back to life or not. He's definitely has his own agency, like he's doing his own things without Wanda being there. So we'll see how that plays out. But I'm really excited for this. What was your impression of the trailer? I loved the music that they used in it. It was kind of like a creepy version of the song at certain times.
In terms of this show, I think this was the one out of the initial 3 that they announced that I was the least excited. And I'm not trying to. I am very excited for it. It's still. It just seems it's even watching the trailer. I'm watching the trailer again right now just to kind of like get used to it again. But it just seems I'm somewhat confused almost. Which I think does actually kind of make the show a little bit
I think you're
more
supposed to be.
Yeah, like between the trailers I've seen, the posters that you're talking about, I've seen those as well. I guess I'm not fully understanding the show yet, which is not going to, doesn't mean the show won't be really good, because I trust everything they do with these Marvel shows and movies. Because one, I am intrigued with why is Vision, is he back? Like you kind of mentioned, is he back? Like because this is taking place after, is this set to take place after the
Endgame, after Endgame,
right?
Yep.
Yeah, so we don't know a lot about what's going to happen, what happened with him. Obviously, he died at the end of Infinity War. So then, like, what exactly occurred with him during all this time frame? Is this something that's just kind of going on in her head? Are they stuck in some sort of time loop? I guess there's a lot that it could be. I am excited for how it is set up, though. It does look really cool with the different like decades of TV. Like you kind of mentioned, the 50s, 60s, and just kind of seeing it go through. I do love Vision. I love Paul Bettany, and so I am excited to kind of see a show that's pretty much highlighting his character, instead of he's kind of really just there from Age of Ultron and Infinity War, and then other than that, you don't feel like there's a whole lot of Vision. I know he's there in Civil War, kind of like at the bits and pieces of it, but this is still the one that I'm the least. I'm worried, but I'm also excited at the same time. I think this is the only one from those shows that I get that feeling, just because I just really don't know what to expect or what's what it's about. But I actually, now that you mentioned it in the character list, because I didn't really pick up on them during the first few times I saw the previews, but it is exciting to see Darcy and Agent Jimmy Woo. I loved him in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
He was
I
so
thought he was
good.
one of the. So I didn't pick up on that until you actually. I'm reading your recap here. I didn't notice them until that, and now that I watched the trailer again, now I could pick them out, waiting to see where they were. So I'm excited. It's just I'm just a little bit worried, just because I don't know what it is. I just really I just don't, and it's hard to explain that, I guess.
Yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes. I mean, the way that they've explained this before is kind of like half sitcom, half Marvel Cinematic Universe epic. So, really going to have to see how they balance this and what the length of episodes are like. Is it similar to Mandalorian, where it can range anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes or 55 minutes, or is it going to be consistently closer to the hour mark? The way they always talk about this series is that it's 6 hours. Which typically means 6 episodes, around 40 minutes if you're going by standard.
That would be nice, because I think sometimes with the Mandalorian, which is obviously their biggest show, I think that they've created I enjoy the longer episode, especially if you're only going to make it a 6 to 8 episode season. Like, give us enough content to where, I guess that's the part that worries me, is that if it's going to be half sitcom-y, half Marvel, I want the episodes to be long enough to where I don't feel like one episode we just get like the cute sitcom-y type deal with just a little bit of kind of progressing their Marvel storyline. Like,
right.
I want it to be both, and I want there to be sufficient time to where you don't feel like anything's getting rushed.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be rushed. I do think that they will. I think it'll be probably started off. I'd say maybe the first half of the episode, the way I'm going to guess here, is going to be where everything kind of seems happy. It's going to be like the 50s. 50s television was very kind of like happy-go-lucky, type of situations at times. And I think that eventually something's going to happen where it starts making her think something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody has some sort of spell. It's got to be over this certain area or something. Because even Monica Rambeau, when she comes in and she's kind of saying her lines, and then Wanda asks her a question, and she kind of looks confused and says, "I don't know." And then it kind of like glitches out, and she's back to being smiley, happy. So I think there's something going on here that makes me think maybe I thought before and it was in her head or something. But now I'm starting to think that it's more of a certain, almost like a dome area that maybe has some sort of spell on it or something.
Mm-hmm.
But only a month away from our first MCU content since July of 2019. So looking forward to that. All right, moving on to Falcon and Winter Soldier. This got a premiere date as well, March 19th. Is when that's going to premiere, I believe. Let's go ahead and say that January 15th, when WandaVision premieres, and we have 6 episodes. Then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would end February 26th. At that point, then you're only going to have 3 weeks without MCU content, if that's how it goes. If they stretch it out to where it might be 6 hours long, but not 6 episodes. Maybe it's 8 episodes. Then you're looking at maybe a week or no weeks without any sort of gap here. So we'll see how that plays out. But this series is going to be starring Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson, Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, Daniel Bruhl is back as Baron Zemo from Captain America Civil War. We got Emily Van Camp back as Sharon Carter from Winter Soldier and Civil War. And we got newcomer Wyatt Russell as John Walker. He's known as U.S. Agent in the comics. And it seems like they're going to be playing up a bit of that storyline as well. This is directed by Kerry Skoglund and written by the head writer Malcolm Spellman. Your thoughts on the new Falcon and Winter Soldier trailer?
This is the one I'm most excited for. I just the very beginning of the trailer where Falcon he's like the legacy, or he's like the legacy of the shield is complicated, and then you like look at Sebastian Stan, and he's the look that he gives him. I don't know. I think this is going to be the one that personally, I think this is going to be the one that's going to be the best. I think Loki will be the one that people love the most. Just, I think people love Loki as a villain, and I think of his character in the show will make people feel as though that's the best show. But I think this is going to be the one that is going to be the most entertaining between Falcon kind of becoming Captain America. You know, at the end of Endgame, where he gives the shield to when he gives the shield. I think that's one of the coolest scenes at the end. I think when Sam gets it and he's just like, you can kind of tell he just knows what happened without even really telling him. Sam knows that he stayed because he wanted to be with Peggy, and you know, I'm so excited. It's hard to put into words. This is the show I was waiting for the most, and honestly, the trailer did nothing to curb my did nothing to say like, hey, you shouldn't be excited, because I also after Bucky kind of got through his whole crazed I'm going to kill everybody phase, and he started becoming more so with the Avengers. I think that itself was exciting to start seeing him again as the Bucky that you first meet in Captain America, the first Avenger, and now to see him in even more of a prominent role as like the good guy fighting with Falcon / is he going to be called Captain America? I'm assuming, or is he, is he just
he has become Captain America in the comics before, and I think he will, but I think that's going to be the journey of the show. So I think he'll be Falcon as he's trying to think until he feels like he earns the shield, and then I think from there he would become Captain America.
It's such a cool the trailer itself is so cool, and I'm just so excited to see not only his transition into becoming Captain America. You know, obviously it's not going to be an easy thing to do because I'm really blanking on names. I don't even know why I can't think of Captain America's real name. Why am I forgetting this?
Steve Rogers?
Yeah.
Or Chris Evans? Which one?
Steve Rogers, yeah. Like him transitioning to, he's Steve Rogers' like best friend besides Bucky. You know, he played such a important role into what Captain America did after the first Captain America movie. You know, when he finally gets kind of brought in during Winter Soldier. To see him have to take over for that role and how complicated it's going to be, and then you have Bucky, Steve Rogers' best friend from before World War II, but he's still alive. It's all just so exciting, and like I said, the trailer it looks like it's gonna be it kind of almost, this one looks more so like what you'd expect like a bunch of mini Marvel movies to be. That's what it kind of looks like to me.
It really reminds me of the Winter Soldier type of look.
Yeah, it just I think for the first off, I think they're a really good duo. I think you can kind of see it. You see it initially in Civil War when they have to kind of like become friends, even though they don't like each other. Like in the scene when they're in the car and Steve's kissing Sharon. I'm assuming, like, you can kind of see how they have to go from like they hate each other, but then they slowly progress and they start becoming friends. And now they're kind of like, I guess I don't know how we're going to see it until the show happens, but they look as though they have to become like best friends, or maybe they've become best friends over the course of time. And, they have to find out. It's interesting to see what they're going to be doing in terms of who they are fighting as well. I'm assuming they're going to be fighting Baron, but also what happened? Did we know what happened to him, or was he?
He was in prison.
He's in prison.
Yeah, he was going to kill himself, and that's when T'Challa stopped him from
So
he used the best line in Civil War with the living are not done with you yet, and he was in prison. So he at some point either escapes or gets out. But I think we got 3 villains in this. I think we have Baron Zemo. I think we have John Walker, who I think the U.S. government is the one that I think they want him to kind of succeed Steve as Cap. And then you have that's kind of the plot line in the comics. And then Erin Kellyman, she played Emphas Nest in Solo. She's in the series as well, and people are speculating that she is Flag Smasher. So Flag Smasher is a comic book villain that is against patriotism. So he's anti-patriot. He kind of has no allegiance to any country. He does not like Captain America. He does not like America. He does not like the Soviet Union. He pretty much does not like anything. He's very anti that. And it looks like Erin Kellyman might be playing Flag Smasher, which would be a pretty interesting role. We see her a few times in this trailer putting on kind of like this makeshift mask that kind of looks
I was just saying,
like a handprint over it. Yeah, that's who people think she is. But yeah, that's the girl from Solo who was Enfys Nest there. And so I think we might get 3 villains with that. I guess we'll see. I think that he's probably going to be going after. They're probably going to be going after Baron Zemo and maybe Flag Smashers. Coming in doing her thing, and then you also have the struggle of which one will be Captain America, John Walker or Sam Wilson. I think might be a main plot line there. I mean, this was the one I was most excited for as well. I think that's why they wanted to launch the show with this. It just has so many ties to the MCU compared to like WandaVision, which is going to be more focused on Wanda and Vision and just a few people. But this has, like I said, Falcon as Winter Soldier. These are 2 of their biggest names, along with Baron Zemo, Sharon Carter. There's supposed to be, apparently, there's people speculating there's ties to Black Widow in here as well. So we might notice something when we see Black Widow whenever we get a chance to actually see that.
Yeah, this one, it definitely, I think that's what makes Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Loki, which I know is coming up here, but I think that's what makes them a little bit, not to diminish WandaVision, but I think with their ties into the MCU, the characters' ties into MCU, how much more we know about them, what they've done in the movies. It just feels like those 2 feel more Marvel-like, and even their trailers. Watching the trailer makes you think you're going to go see a Marvel movie. To me, watching both of their trailers, it was like, oh, this is going to be a movie, Whereas WandaVision was more like, you just don't really know. Like, it does look more like a sitcom, but it's not. But I think the way they portrayed them in the trailers, the 2, Loki and Falcon Winter Soldier, they just look more so like Marvel than WandaVision does.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm excited for WandaVision as well, is I think that'll show what what makes the MCU stand out at times is the fact that it can be so many different things. Like WandaVision looks very different from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So when a lot of people say that these series and movies are all the same, they're not, right? Like they're very different. Like yes, they have some humor at times, but especially since we moved away from origin stories, it really feels like it's opened up. Phase 3 really opened up the MCU, I feel like, to it being wacky, wonderful, weird, different every movie, pretty much,
Yeah.
I guess we'll move on. Black Widow, May 7th. So again, if Falcon and the Winter Soldier is 6 episodes like they've been saying, then that gives us 2 weeks between Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Black Widow. So I'm thinking that might be a theme here, with 2 weeks between these projects to get people a chance to see them before the next thing. May 7th, they said it's still coming out in theaters, which was interesting because Disney's new movie in March, Raya and the Last Dragon, is going to be theaters and Disney Plus Premier Access. So maybe as we get closer to May 7th, if things are still not going great, you get that added on to where it'll be both. But I really think they're going to just let May 7th come, and if either way, I think this movie's getting released around then, because I don't think they're willing to keep pushing back at this point, especially with a vaccine coming.
Yeah, I feel like it seems like it's going to be coming out at that point. I feel like they pushed it back so much that I really don't think
a whole year
push back. Yeah, they're not. In even a worst case scenario, I think they just kind of go, you know what, Disney Plus. You know, I can't see them continuing to do it, because in a way, like it sounds bad, but with it kept getting pushed back, it's not making me almost like more excited. I'm more so just kind of like, can we just like release it already?
Get it over with. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so pumped for this movie all the way up till November, when it was originally set for November.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, okay, can we just release it Disney Plus, or I'll pay for it? Like, I just want to see it.
Yeah, because at this point, like, when it was supposed to come out last year, it was almost perfect, because, you know, it seemed like a really good post-Endgame type of situation. You know, get this movie in, especially after everything happens with Black Widow and Endgame. But now it's been so long. I'm just like, can I just see it? Like, I don't even know what to expect. I don't even know if I can remember much about the trailer at this point. You know, I just kind of want to see it. You know, let me just watch it.
Yeah, that's how I feel. You know, we got Taskmaster, who's the villain in it. We have Red Guardian in it. That's the one played by David Harbour. We got Florence Pugh is going to be in it as Yelena, which is another Black Widow. So we'll see how it goes, and hopefully, you know, that's 5 months from now. Hopefully we're able to see it, whether it's in theaters or on Disney Plus. I think it's time to release it.
Yeah.
Loki was next. That just doesn't have an official date, but it has May. So let's guess by this 2-week thing that we've been kind of figuring out here. 2 weeks from May 7th would be May 21st. That's a Friday. It's possible. It's possible it premieres around then. Starring Tom Hiddleston as Loki from, you know, Thor, Avengers. Got Owen Wilson, Gugu Mbatha Raw, Sophia Di Martino, Vunmi Mosako, and Richard E. Grant. He was most recently in The Rise of Skywalker as one of the Imperials. Directed by Kate Herron, head writer Michael Waldron. And this trailer was a delight, and it as a show that is so far away, I think it actually had the longest of the trailers.
Yeah, it was almost
like
3 minutes.
2 minutes and 45 seconds or so. Yeah.
Look, it was easily the longest one. It looks like it's I still, looking at it right now, I feel like Owen Wilson's character is Howard Stark. I'm sorry. He just looks so much like him. I don't know if they did that on purpose.
No, I don't think they did it on purpose. He's supposed to be in the Time Variance Authority. So we'll see. I like the way that they open up this trailer with the scene from Endgame to really cement the fact that this is Loki from that universe, right? Like, he's the one that gets the cube. They set it up in Endgame. He gets out of there, and he lands in this sandy place that I guess is on Earth. I'm not really certain. I guess we see people. Yeah, I guess he lands somewhere in like the Mid-East or something. I'm not sure. And then he's next scene we know he's in the elevator with Owen Wilson, and you know, Owen Wilson calls him out on Loki's lie that he doesn't like talking, because he knows, you know, which we know is to be true, that Loki loves talking. And then they kind of show us this like where we're kind of seeing the events of Avengers from Loki's point of view, almost. I'm trying to describe this as best as I can, but we have like a projection on the wall, it seems like, that is of the Hawkeye's arrow, him holding up the arrow pointed at his face, like we see in Avengers after Loki gets knocked out. And so it's like they're almost like reliving that for him or something, trying to get information maybe. Not certain. But for people that don't know, the Time Variance Authority is is something set up to kind of prevent people from tampering with the time stream and all the universes and multiverses. And as we know that the Avengers kind of opened this door in Endgame, it's funny that Loki's the one that's kind of dealing with those repercussions of him escaping. And it makes me wonder if I think this is going to be part of setup for what's going to be going on forward. As we're getting more of the multiverse stuff and we're getting more of the time stuff, I think that might be what we're building towards in phases 4 and 5. Kind of like the way we built up to Thanos. I think we're going to be building up to something along with this. Now, there are 3 statues in this trailer as well, which could be of, if you look up pictures of these people, they're called the Timekeepers. They kind of match the statues. Their names are Ast, Vorth, and Xanth. They are the Timekeepers who were created by He Who Remains. He Who Remains is the very last director of the Time Variance Authority, and it's existing at the common endpoint of all surviving realities in the multiverse. So they serve 2 purposes. Their purposes are that they would be a gift to the future, teaching those of the next universal cycle how to avoid the errors of the past. And second, they would serve as living batteries of chronal power, which is the energy of the TVA's eternity of existence. So a lot of words there. Let's break that down real quick.
Yeah.
We got the Time Variance Authority. We got 3 people that have the statues, and I think they might be the faces on the wall as well that we get kind of like etched in wood. Mm-hmm. But these big 3 statues that are kind of like at the base of the elevator, if you look up these characters, because some people thought these were other people, but when you look at them and you look at the characters, because I'm not familiar with these 3 Timekeepers, even as somebody that reads comics, I've not gotten around to any of the Time Variance Authority. But they seem to really match the look here. So I think we're going to be getting some really weird stuff with Loki, and for some reason, he's going to be kind of going back in the past, it seems. So it even looked like there was a armor, like a knight in armor at some point with like a fire. They show a brief bit there of that, and I remember before Loki, when they first announced the Loki series, which may have been before Infinity War, I'm not sure, it was a while ago that they announced the series, and they announced it as a series of Loki traveling through time to certain points in human history. And then we got the last trailer, during like around the Super Bowl, and people saw the TVA on his chest, meaning the Time Variance Authority, and people are like, oh, well, this is probably him with all this stuff. And I think we kind of thought that original explanation of what the series was no longer true. But now with this weird part where he's on the plane and he robs the plane, gets out of the plane, and he's like DB Cooper, which if you're familiar with DB Cooper, are you familiar with DB Cooper, Matt? He's a legend.
The name is familiar. I don't know why though. I've heard DB Cooper. I'm gonna look that up real quick.
Yeah, and if you see the picture of him, they really try to nail the picture of when people did a sketch of DB Cooper. They really tried to nail that look with Loki here. So in 1971,
yeah, I see what you mean.
In 1971, Loki. I was going to say Loki hijacks. Apparently that's what happens. But in 1971, DB Cooper hijacked a plane, a Boeing 727, and asked for quite a large sum of money into a duffel bag, and he just jumped out the plane. And in this case, we see him call to Heimdall and Thor, and he gets, the Rainbow Bridge. The Bifrost takes him out of there. Nobody actually knows what happened to D.B. Cooper. There was some stuff found, like part of the plane, because back then they had you were able to put stairs out mid-flight, and I think now they changed it due to DB Cooper where they couldn't, but part of the steps or something fell off of the plane when he jumped, and that they found in the woods in the Pacific Northwest, and they found, I think, some money that may have fell there. There's no body. They think I would think most likely they think he may have died, or he got away with it. But if he had, they said at the time of day, if he had landed where some of that stuff was that they found, he would have probably died due to weather, because it was November in the Pacific Northwest. He would have landed. He was only wearing a suit, and it can get really cold in that area. They don't think he would have made it out, especially if he landed in water at all. Then he would be cold with his clothes and all that. People just don't think he may have made it out at this point. So, interestingly, as somebody that was very interested in the D.B. Cooper case, as you may tell, it was very weird to see Loki dressed up as him jumping out of there, and I was like, oh my, they're really going for the D.B. Cooper look there. But it makes sense that's what they were kind of going for, I guess, that maybe he's going to be going through time. Maybe this is to make sure that some of these events happen, right? To make sure the time stream stays intact. Maybe something messed it up or something, and he's not really D.B. Cooper, but now he has to take on that role and kind of fill in here and there.
I would say the basis around the show and the summary here, it does seem as though they're using him as a time cop. They're gonna use even just the way he's kind of getting questioned. I feel like do they have Owen Wilson's character's name? Do we know what it is?
No, we do not.
It seems very as though they know who he is, and they're like, hey, we know who you are. We know that. I think he's kind of getting punished for the whole Endgame leaving with the Tesseract thing, because I think he's the only one that's not planning. Obviously they mess with the timelines, but their whole plan is to get everything back into the timelines, which they do. Whereas Loki obviously is not going to have that. So I think they do see him as in a time sense, like an outlaw. So they bring him in, and then they basically use him as their own special agent, time cop. Based off of the summary here and who the timekeepers are and the time variance authority, it does seem as though he's going to be some version of a time cop for them, and he's going to handle cases where he has to go into some sort of universe or some sort of line of a universe and have to fix something or do something that is relevant to making sure everything stays on track in a specific timeline or universe. It really does seem like that's what they're going for.
Yeah, whatever it is, I'm here for it. And the rumor is that this show is going to be 2 6-episode seasons. Is the rumor going around here from people that have sources knowing that they're actually already on pre-production of season 2, and that they're kind of filming these very close to each other, and that we're getting the 6-episode season in May and maybe another one the year after. But whatever it is, I'm down for this, and really looks like 2021 they're going to be knocking out these original series. They all just look so good at this point. Speaking of the next series that looks super good as well, the first animated Marvel Studios project that's coming out in summer 2021. Each episode will explore a pivotal moment from the MCU and turn it on its head. We're talking about the series What If. So if you're not familiar with the comics, Matt, What If was also a comic run that they did at times where they would take these same sort of ideas where they might say, what if, like in this example, Peggy Carter was a super soldier instead of, Steve Rogers, and it could, do a one-off issue about that. So it is very interesting that Marvel decided to do this, and I think now we're starting to see why. It's not just a random cartoon of, hey, what if, that would be fun, but we're about to get a whole bunch of multiverse stuff here, like we said with Loki, like we see with Doctor Strange coming up, that this could actually be, like relevant. All these universes that we see could actually be relevant to the MCU going forward.
Yeah, that I think this was in terms of the trailers themselves, I think this one was this is the one I enjoyed watching the most. One, I didn't know what it was. But watching it, I actually didn't even understand. Sounds bad, but I didn't understand the title until about midway through the trailer, where I was like, "Oh, these are what if scenarios." So I was like, "Oh, it's Peggy Carter's Captain America now." Oh, Yondu, and I was like, Black Panther's not Black Panther. I was like, "Oh, okay, wait a second. Now I get what you mean." I also the animation on it is insanely good too.
It looks really good.
I was getting it almost seems like a slightly smoother Spider-Verse. Like the way they did the animation for it, but this one doesn't seem as. I know that it's definitely not the same animation style, but I could see similarities in it. And I think what you just kind of brought up is a good point. The fact that these are most likely going to be relevant once we get into these multiverse scenarios, and some of it just looks insanely cool. You get like the zombie Captain America that's like in the train with.
So that's based off of there was a Marvel comic run called Marvel Zombies as well, which had a. So it seems like they're taking from that as well.
Well, like it's cool to see. You get Peggy Carter, you get like you kind of say here, Black Panther is. He's picked up. T'Challa's picked up by Yondu. The Doctor Strange one, which I guess I don't fully understand his yet. It just kind of looks.
Maybe it ties in. Maybe it ties into Multiverse of Madness. I mean, maybe that's.
His was a little less understanding, but you can clearly see there's still a lot in there, because you also get the Collector, I believe, is in a clip. I believe that's who it is. He's like in all white. It almost looks like he's just like. It's like in a random. I don't know if it's kind of toward the end of it. He's got like this big fur coat on, and you see Hawkeye, and then it looks like the Collector, Iron Man, Captain Marvel. You still see all of them, and so they're all clearly playing a role in it. And is it a different universe for each one of them, or are they in different universe? This is the one I think I'm super excited for this one, because I just have no background into anything in this what if scenario, because since I don't read the comics or anything, all of this is brand new to me.
Oh yeah, that may have been the Collector. I didn't even realize that when I was looking at it. I was like trying to figure out who that was, but I think you got it right there. Starring most of the regular voice cast, they did announce that I think it's everybody but Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. I'm not sure. I do know that Chadwick Boseman did voice all of his T'Challa lines before he passed away. That came out in the news at some point. And Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher. So the Watcher is a comic book character as well. If you remember, I think it's the scene in the end of Guardians Volume 2 where it has Stan Lee talking to a whole bunch of people up in space. Yeah. Those are all Watchers as well, where they kind of watch, what's going on, and this is one of them. He's the main one. I forget what his name is off the top of my head here, but Jeffrey Wright's going to be voicing him. It's directed by Brian Andrews, and the head writer is Ashley Bradley. And there's just so many. I think this has more than 6 episodes in season 1, and I think it's already been renewed for season 2. So I think this is going to be something that can be consequential, but also can just be fun stuff that they do, and they can just pump out episodes if they want, and they would have, this is probably going to be fun for kids and families, and just, every week, if it's released weekly, which I would think, you can sit down and be like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen this time, right? Like, what's the what if scenario this time? I mean, it feels like we only really know 4 of the what if scenarios so far. We know that Peggy Carter is the super soldier, T'Challa taken by Yondu instead of Quill, the Marvel zombies, and Doctor Strange fighting another Doctor Strange there. But I don't know of many others that are shown in here of something that, like, I guess we don't really know yet on what some of these are going to be. So definitely looks interesting, and I am intrigued to see how this is pulled off and how this happens. And this has been one of my most anticipated for a while here. I think D23, they showed some of the Peggy Carter stuff. I don't think it was released to the public. I think I watched a leaked video of it, and it looked pretty good there too. So I'm excited. Then I have, after this, in July 9th of next year, Shang-Chi. Actually, I think it's pronounced Shang-Chi, as Kevin Feige said it, and the Legends of the Ten Rings. If you may remember, the Ten Rings was in Iron Man 3 as the villain organization. And it seems like this is going to be based off of the real Ten Rings, and this is going to have the Mandarin. The Mandarin was referenced in Iron Man 3, played by, what was his name, Trevor Slattery or whatever.
Oh, man, I'm going to have to go back and watch Iron Man 3.
Yeah, it's not one I watch a lot, but he's in it as a fake Mandarin as it comes out to at the end, and we're going to get the real Mandarin in Legends of the Ten Rings with Shang-Chi, so looking forward to that. Any thoughts on Shang-Chi at all here?
This is where it's going to start getting to a point where there is a lot of information I don't have, and I think it kind of starts with anything that hasn't really come out with any type of trailer. I was just kind of looking at the list as to who is in it, because I just, there are characters I just have no information or knowledge on, and I think this is the start of it, where I just don't know who the characters are. I'll have to watch Iron Man 3 again just to see the villain, and to kind of go over the Ten Rings part, because I'm not even sure what that is at the current moment.
Yeah, it was it was kind of built up to be that they were like the terrorist organization that was taking on the USA and like kidnapping the president and stuff, but it turned out it was Aldrich Killian with his what was that thing where he injects himself and lights himself on fire? That thing, whatever that thing was. Yes, so late 2021, the next Disney Plus TV show is Miss Marvel. That's starring Iman Vellani as Kamala Khan, Aramis Knight, Sagar Sheikh, Rish Shah, Zenobia Shroff, Mohan Kapoor, Matt Lintz, Yasmin Fletcher, Laith Naki, Azur Uzman, Trevina Springer, Nimra Buka, and directed by Adil El-Rabi and Bilal Falah, Mira Menon, and Shermeen Obad-Chinoy. I think I did pretty well there. I did pretty well there.
And I don't know a single name that you just said.
I don't know any of these actors. No, I don't.
Miss Marvel's that's the character in the video game, right?
Yes. Yeah. She's just in the new video game, and she's actually a pretty new character. I think she launched in comics in like 2013. It's the first time she was in comics, but she is a fan of Captain Marvel, so she kind of takes her name from that. She's got like posters on her wall, as we see in some of the little behind the scenes footage that they released. She kind of has power similar to Mr. Fantastic. If you're listening to this and you know who that is, he kind of, from the Fantastic Four, stretches his arms. He can, she can kind of do that. In the comics, she is known as a Inhuman. We haven't really seen any Inhumans in the Marvel Cinematic Universe yet. They were in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is I guess, kind of in the MCU now. We're not really certain with how that show ended. But Inhumans, they were really pushing Inhumans when Fox still had the X-Men and had the mutants as a new way of kind of having mutants.
Isn't Inhumans a show?
It was. It was a show on ABC for 8 episodes. That was awful. Yes. I think they're going to ignore that show.
I was going to say, are they... Okay. Because I remember seeing that on Disney Plus, and I was like, oh, this is Marvel. Like, maybe I should try to watch it. Never did, and after what you just said, I definitely will not.
Yeah, I think the rumors are they're recasting the Inhumans for another show on Disney Plus. So I think they're just going to ignore
not
it.
Good.
And it wasn't so much like Ramsay from Game of Thrones is in it. It's not so much the acting quality
Ramsay
that was
Bolton?
the problem. Yeah. It's not so much the acting quality that was the problem. It was written. The writer and director of the show just didn't nail the tone right. And this was back when it wasn't. It was supposed to be in the MCU, but actually Marvel had nothing to do with it. It was Marvel Television that was making it, and they just didn't do it justice. But what an Inhuman are they have like these latent abilities kind of in them that there's a certain object called Terrigen. It's like a crystal. Mm-hmm. And when it becomes like a mist, it ends up kind of encasing them into a cocoon if you're an Inhuman or if you have Inhuman blood in you. And when you come out of that cocoon, you have like some sort of superpower. That's what an Inhuman is. And so it's a little different from mutants where you're kind of born as a mutant. This is like an ability that's kind of unlocked through the Terrigen mist. So it would be interesting to see if that's what they do for Miss Marvel or if they're just going to kind of make it a different way that she gets her powers, because Inhumans are kind of actually linked with Eternals, and with Eternals coming out soon as well, that might mean that they can kind of play into that a bit. So again, not sure, but Kamala Khan is a great character. She's funny. She's a fan of the superheroes, and then she gets her own powers, and she's just a normal high school girl in New Jersey trying to make it through with all of these new abilities and such. And I'm really excited for it. I've yet to really read a lot of Miss Marvel, but from playing the game, she's brilliant in the game. She's characterized great and really good. Before 2021, going to be trying to read some of these comics on Marvel Unlimited. All right. Eternals. That's November 5th, 2021. That has a huge cast. I'm not going to go over all of them here. This was pushed back a whole year now as well. That was supposed to come out November of this year. And it's going to be rather disconnected from the MCU, I think, for a bit. It's still supposed to take place after Endgame, and also through the thousands of years that these characters have been around. And we'll just see. Harry
Styles really going to be in it?
Harry Styles? I don't think so.
If you look at Eternals cast on Google, because I was like, I remember this cast, and I was like, who is in it? I just like wanted to see. The first one that pops up is Harry Styles.
No, I don't think he's in that.
It goes Harry Styles, Kit Harington, Richard Madden. I was like, that can't be right. Like, there's no way.
No, I don't think Harry Styles is actually in this. I don't see him on the real cast list, so I'm not sure. But we have... So I will read the list now, so people are not confused when I look it up. Angelina Jolie is in it. Richard Madden is in it from Game of Thrones. Camille Nanjiani is in this. Lauren Ridloff, Brian Tyree Henry, Selma Hayek, Leah McHugh, Don Lee, Kit Harington, Gemma Chan, and Barry Keoghan.
I think Gemma Chan is in Crazy Rich Asians.
She is, yeah. She was in Captain Marvel. She was in Captain Marvel as well as Minerva. She was one of the blue aliens, one of the Kree. But since she was under all that makeup, they were like, "Oh, let's just use her again because nobody's gonna notice."
Yeah, I remember that cast when it came out. How crazy big the cast is. I'm excited to see Kit Harington in a Marvel movie.
And he's supposed to be Black Knight, and Black Knight is a superhero also known as, his name is Dane Whitman, but his character, his superhero name is Black Knight. And I think he has the sword Excalibur with him, and he kind of has a love story, I think, with Gemma Chan's character. So we'll see how that goes. But it's going to be very similar to, I would think, Jon Snow for him a bit, with the sword and everything.
Jon Snow.
Yeah, but hopefully he knows something this time. Late 2021 as well, we're getting Hawkeye, starring Jeremy Renner as Clint Barton, Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop. Vera Farmiga is going to be Kate Bishop's mom. We got
name's
familiar.
What's
Vera
what's
Farmiga?
she in? Yeah.
I know she was in Bates Motel, but I'm not sure what else she's been in other than that. We got Tony Dalton in the cast, Zahn McClarnon, Brian D.R.C. James, Alakwa Cox as Maya Lopez, also known as Echo. We'll talk a little bit about her.
Oh, Vera Farmiga's in I think she's in the the Conjuring stuff. Yep, that's where I saw her.
Oh, okay.
She's good. I enjoy her in those movies.
I'm excited for Haley Steinfeld being Kate Bishop. You might know her from the Pitch Perfect films. She's
also, yeah. She's I can't think of. She's a singer too.
Yeah, she's
so
a singer.
It makes sense with Pitch Perfect, but there's a couple.
She was
songs.
in True Grit back in the day, which was when was that? 2010.
That's the name of my college's mascot. It's called True Grit.
Oh yeah, True Grit was a 2010 movie by the Coen brothers. It's a remake of the 1960s film, but Haley Steinfeld starred in that when she was like a young girl, and 14, I think, or so. I remember I saw that one in theaters actually.
Has there been somebody in a movie or show with the last name Bishop, or has she been mentioned prior? Like Kate Bishop sounds familiar.
So, so the rumors with Haley Steinfeld have been going on for almost a year, playing Kate Bishop. So you may have heard it from that, but she takes up the Hawkeye mantle after Clint leaves it at a certain point here. So they're definitely setting her up to be the next Hawkeye. So that's exciting. Like I mentioned here, Alakwa Cox starring as Maya Lopez, also known as Echo. Echo is a Native American who is born deaf and also has a white handprint on her face. We'll see if that happens in the show. But she also dresses as Ronin at some point. You know, Ronin the same way that Clint dresses in Endgame. Yeah. So we'll see if that, maybe she shows up as Ronin first, and, you know, we kind of get that. Does she start as a villain, maybe? Which has happened, I think, in some of the comics. Rumored to be in the show as well is Florence Pugh, who plays Yelena in Black Widow, so maybe she'll make an appearance again as well. And this is going to be directed by Rhys Thomas and Bert and Bertie, which is a director duo.
Bert and Ernie.
Bert and Bertie.
I know. I was like, the first time I
Bert
saw
and Ernie's totally
like...
something different.
And when I read it, I was like, Bert and Ernie.
But I'm excited for Hawkeye. I think this could be another one that kind of feels similar to Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice to get. I know you get a lot. You get more. Black Widow and Hawkeye, to me, in the whole phase 1 to 3 were very. I think everyone kind of puts them together, and I think you see that even in Endgame when they go on their mission together, and obviously they have their whole, who's going to jump off for the Soul Stone. So I think they're kind of, in a way, synonymous with each other. But the other thing is you just don't have a lot of background to them. But you feel like you have more about Black Widow because she's just kind of there more. And she has a more prevalent role in the initial phases. And obviously she gets her movie. We're going to get all the background. So it's nice, though, to see Hawkeye getting that chance to get more Hawkeye and have him be a centralized character. And hopefully, I mean, if what is supposed to happen and Kate Bishop becomes Hawkeye, then at least you're constantly seeing Marvel figure out ways to, and I'm sure it's how it goes in the comics, but people can manipulate and change things, but it's nice to see them kind of pass down the mantles as time goes on, and hopefully it continues that way to where they can, obviously one day they'll stop making these movies, but it's nice to see them carry on the characters and try to figure out ways to move the cinematic universe forward while keeping some sort of reminiscent part of the past. So like you're still going to get, a Captain America, but it's Falcon now, but you're going to get a Hawkeye, but it's Kate Bishop. Like, but they're going to have their own story. So they're expanding while keeping the parts that they need to keep with characters, but expanding the universe by making it different characters, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. No, I get what you mean.
So like I like that. I like that they're doing that where you could end up, if it works out, you have Kate Bishop, she could be in some movies with, the different phases, but then she could end up with her own TV show. It's like it could just be an incredibly smart, powered, money type of plan by Disney and Marvel, which I wouldn't shock me. They're very smart companies. They know what they're doing. But that's what makes them so good, is that they know that they're doing this and they're doing it the right way, where it's like an endless possibilities type of scenario, and that's kind of proven here with how they're handling the second main phase, I guess. What are they calling it again? It's like what were the first three? I always feel like you know
the first three phases was the Infinity Saga. They haven't named this one yet.
But it's like it's nice
phase
that they're
4
able
is
to,
all they've said.
Yeah, so it's like they know how to progress it. They know how we're going to continue to be interested. And I know, honestly, Disney Plus is a great way to do it, because now you can get these TV shows out that go along with the MCU, not like the TV shows Netflix came out with. I know we're going to get to Daredevil. I know his character pops up, or he's rumored, I believe. So I know, like, yeah, there's part of that, but I think having Disney Plus is going to make it easier to expand upon the MCU, whereas Netflix, I'm not really sure how those characters play a huge role, like Iron Fist or the one with David Tennant in it. I can't think
Jessica
of the
Jones.
name. Jessica Jones. Like, I know that they're Marvel stuff, but like at the same time, I've never really seen a reason to. I haven't had much of a reason to watch it. I want to watch Jessica Jones because of David Tennant, but I'm not wanting to watch it to see how it does anything in the MCU. But I think Disney Plus is going to let them do that with these shows, where you're going to kind of have to watch these shows, because at some point that show is going to be relevant to this movie, or this show is going to be something that happened in this show is going to be relevant to that movie. And I think that's how it should be with something as big as the MCU.
Yeah. I think what helps too with this is, compared to when it was on like broadcast TV with like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff, you get it's more accessible now.
Yeah.
Like people will just be able to watch all of the MCU in like one spot, minus the Hulk film and the Spider-Man films, just because of rights issues. But
God, I hope we get the freaking Spider-Man rights.
You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about like when it's broadcasting on TV and you're like, oh, did I DVR it? Do I have to find it on do I have to buy an episode on iTunes? Do I have to wait till the DVD comes out? Like, you're just able to sign up for Disney Plus and just watch them as they air. And it's accessible. Disney Plus is still only, $6.99 a month? It's going to be going up in March to $7.99. But it is a, like you said, it's really going to help expand it. And if the show doesn't work, let's say people don't take to a show of Miss Marvel and you're not going to produce a second season, oh well, she can show up in another show, she can show up in another movie, you just don't worry about another season of it, and you can still have this character all set up and ready to go.
Yep. So
let's get to Spider-Man 3. We didn't get any news of it during the show, but there's been a crap ton of rumors about this and some news since all of this week, but this
I don't know if your Twitter's been like mine, but I feel like
Yes.
mine's everyone joking, going like, such and
Anakin
such,
Skywalker is going to be in Spider-Man 3. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that. So this is premiering December 17th, 2021, if everything works out right. We had some news earlier in the summer, or earlier in the year, Jamie Foxx coming back as Electro. He was Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2, which was the Andrew Garfield film. He's coming back into this one as Electro, kind of like the same way, I would think, the way that it's been explained to us before. Just like, I'm blanking on his name now. J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson at the end of Far From Home. He was J. Jonah Jameson in the Tobey Maguire films. Just, it's not set in the same universe, but it's just, okay, perfectly cast it. We're using him again. I think that's what's going to happen here, but with some of the rumors we've been getting, maybe not. The Hollywood Reporter has broke the story that Alfred Molina is coming back as Doc Ock. He was Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire back in 2004. So we're not sure how that's working out, but he was seen on set as well, apparently. So that one's pretty confirmed, I think. Rumors of a Tobey Maguire coming back as Peter Parker from Spider-Man 1 through 3. There's also rumors of him wanting $15 million, so who knows if that's actually going to happen for such a small role. Andrew Garfield is apparently signed on, it's the rumors here, to come back as his Peter Parker from Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. Emma Stone is apparently in talks to come back as Gwen Stacy. She is pregnant right now as well, I think, is the rumors. So who knows if that's going to actually happen. Kristen Dunst is rumored or signed on to be coming back as Mary Jane Watson from the original Spider-Man films. And then another weird rumor, Charlie Cox coming back as Daredevil from the Netflix series Daredevil. And Kevin Feige did confirm that this would link to WandaVision and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So, I said on this show before, probably the last episode, that I didn't think this meant multiverse stuff, but I don't know. With all of this stuff that I thought was kind of pie in the sky rumors here, seemingly starting to get confirmed, I'm starting to think maybe it could be multiverse shenanigans going on here, at least for the last third of the film.
Yeah, I don't think it's a multiverse film. I don't think it's going to be focused on it, but because even from what you were just kind of mentioning, it seems like the only one that's officially signed on is Andrew Garfield. The rest sound like rumors. And so to me, until more information comes out with it, I don't think we can. I think it's easier to think of it as not a Spider-Verse, multiverse type of thing, but there's going to be something in it that plays into something after Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, I mean, from what somebody said, somebody that has insider knowledge apparently said that it's still very much about Tom Holland and still very much about those, him being on the run. But that in the last act of the film is when we get some of these characters, but that they don't that they don't take up too much of the time here. Now, Charlie Cox could be back as Daredevil. That's the rumor, by the way. Kind of more than a rumor. A lot of places have been kind of picking it up as something. We're just waiting for, like, again, Variety, Deadline, or the Hollywood Reporter to say something.
Mm-hmm.
But that would fit almost. Peter Parker's going to need a lawyer probably with his issues going on of him being outed as Spider-Man and, Mysterio saying that he's the one who killed him. He's going to probably need a lawyer. Charlie Cox, Daredevil, Matt Murdock is a lawyer, so maybe he takes up the case, or maybe he runs into him at some point. Who knows? Again, it doesn't even mean that the Netflix one is in the same universe. It could be just a different Matt Murdock in this time, even though it kind of started out in the same universe. They make a lot of references to it in the first few seasons of the show, but kind of peters out. I'm gonna say I don't want multiverse stuff in Spider-Man right now. I think this would be fine if we built up to this as Spider-Man 4. But I'm just going to have faith here in Kevin Feige and what they've done, because they haven't let me down yet, that I think that it'll be done fine. And if it's done good, if it's done well, then this is going to be fantastic. I love the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films. I would love to see him as kind of older Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield, I actually really liked his portrayal as Spider-Man, but Amazing Spider-Man 2 was just not very good. So that would be kind of interesting to see, and I did like Charlie Cox as Daredevil, so if all this stuff comes true, and as we already know, Benedict Cumberbatch is going to be Doctor Strange, so we kind of thought it would tie in with Doctor Strange. So
yeah, I think that's the part that I'm more excited about.
And I get it. People always say, well, why can't Spider-Man just have his own film right now? And one, we've had 5 films with Spider-Man by himself. That's Spider-Man 1 through 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 1 through 2. But 2, the contract pretty much states when Sony made the deal with Disney that, okay, you get to use him in your films, but we get to use some of your characters in ours. And that's the deal. They want people to show up. That's why they put Iron Man in Spider-Man Homecoming. They wanted the Iron Man MCU audience to come see Spider-Man Homecoming and not worry about, oh, this is another reboot of Spider-Man, but think, okay, so this takes place with Iron Man. Cool, I'm in it, you know? And the second one, that's why they're like, okay, Far From Home, we're going to put Nick Fury and Maria Hill in the show, in the movie, because that they're not as big names, but like character-wise, but Samuel L. Jackson's pretty huge of a star, so you get that in there as well. So you just knew for Spider-Man 3 we were going to get somebody, and there was rumors, I think, before Far From Home that the rumors was that Benedict Cumberbatch would be in Doctor Strange in that one, and I thought that would be a really cool matchup. They're 2 New York superheroes. They're not far from each other. That would be really great. So yes, I love Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange the film, I did enjoy. I'm not as big of a fan of it now.
I'm still huge. I don't know.
But I love the character. I think he's really good in Thor Ragnarok. He's really great in Infinity War, and he's really great in Endgame. So I think Infinity War was his coming out party, really, of, you know, Doctor Strange is great.
He seemed more comfortable in Infinity War.
Yes.
Because Doctor Strange was definitely a lot more about creating the character than because you could even tell in the first scene when he's talking with why can't think of the guy's name that he worked that's at the place with him. Wong, yeah. He, like, you could just see how comfortable he just seemed more comfortable in the character, in his lines. But with like the Spider-Man thing, I actually kind of I know that they have to put somebody in it, but I actually think with how they've handled Spider-Man, I don't know if it's how the writers have done it or just Tom Holland, how he portrays Spider-Man, but I feel like them having these people in the movie with him makes the Tom Holland Spider-Man a better character, though, too, because he's learning. Like, he's not, you know, there's something about, he's like learning to become this superhero. And I feel like, you know, and then initially I love how they bring in Tony Stark because he becomes like a father figure to him. You know, he becomes the guy who's going to, you know, take care of him and teach him how basically to become, he wants him to become a better version of himself. Like, he even says it in Far From Homecoming. He says it in Homecoming. He's like, I wanted you to be better than me. Like, he's like, I want to be just like you. And he's like, and I wanted you to be better. Right. I think what they do with Spider-Man is I think what they've done with him makes those movies better by adding those characters, not because those characters are already, you know, stationed or, you know, planted themselves into the MCU. You know, they have a background. They, you know, the actors are obviously big name actors. I just think the way they wrote all of it makes you kind of watch Spider-Man become an even better Spider-Man. They're helping him become the best he could possibly be. And to me, that's why I think I like the fact that now the next one is Benedict Cumberbatch, because I feel like in the MCU, Tom Holland's Spider-Man still needs somebody to not really like, be there for him. He doesn't need like a watchdog. He doesn't need somebody making sure every action is handled correctly, but I think he needs that role model. And I think to first have Tony Stark, who is a genius and can create this amazing technology. He's very like, Peter Parker is kind of like a young, less hectic Tony Stark in the MCU. Whereas, Doctor Strange could kind of help him get over the hump in a terms of intellectual terms and what he does. I don't know. I just think it all works. I think they need it not because anybody's a poor actor or the character isn't strong enough. I think they need those characters because it just helps build. It helps build the Spider-Man to be coming to a point where maybe one day they will be able to do a movie with just Spider-Man. Maybe they figure out some contractual agreement to do it. And when it does happen, we're going to be very thankful for what they've done prior.
Well said. And I think now with, if you don't know the relationship between Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, is Human Torch has a really great relationship with Spider-Man. Hopefully at some point, if we do continue to get more Spider-Man films, we get to see that kind of play into it. Remember, Marvel still has one Spider-Man appearance as well. So they make Spider-Man 3, and then they still have one film in this rest of this contract that they have to put him in. So I don't know which one they'll do that in. Probably Multiverse of Madness, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know. But let's get over to 2022. We got She-Hulk, which is unknown release date, really. So I just put it as 2022, starring Tatiana Maslany as Jennifer Walters, which Bruce Banner's cousin, if you don't know. Tim Roth as Abomination. He was in The Incredible Hulk. So that movie is now relevant. If you haven't seen it, Matt, you might need to now. And Mark Ruffalo back as the Hulk. And directed by Kat Coiro and Anu Valia and head writer Jessica Gao. So if you don't know anything about She-Hulk, in the comics, she is a lawyer who I think gets sick or something. She needs a blood transfusion. Bruce is a match, and because they're cousins, his blood turns her kind of into the She-Hulk, like because his blood is Hulk blood, hers does as well. So sometimes it depends. It depends on who's writing it. Sometimes she's always Hulked out, even when she's a lawyer. She's in the lawyer courtroom, all green, but not like as. She doesn't get like as built as Hulk does, like she doesn't become like super tall. She gets like, 6'11", it's probably around there. And in some other runs, she's kind of like regular Hulk, kind of like Savage. But I think they're going to lean more towards her normal perception of her being always Hulked out, but still smart, still a lawyer. I think that's how they're going to go about it. So I'm assuming that's why we're going to get Mark Ruffalo in this, is that with part of the origin. He's probably going to have to face off against Abomination. Maybe she will as well. And Kevin Feige said something interesting here as well. He said, it's a courtroom in New York. You never know who they're going to run into. It seemed to be implying that maybe we get Charlie Cox in this as well as Daredevil, is what a lot of people are reading into that. All right. Any thoughts on She-Hulk, Matt?
I don't really at this point. I think it's just still a little. That was kind of the first time I heard of it, was throughout. I know maybe they announced it prior, but that was the first time I kind of heard it. I'm just kind of waiting for more. I don't have much information on her. I do like Mark Ruffalo though, so I'm hoping. I think I do enjoy. I hope he's not like that. The Hulk. I think I want him to be either the Hulk or Bruce Banner. I don't want him to be like Bruce Banner, who's kind of like Hulk. I didn't like that part of Endgame.
Smart Hulk?
Yeah, I didn't like that part. But I don't have much more information. I don't have much more like information or opinion of it, and so I just want to see more before I have anything I can really think about it.
All right, Moon Knight is coming out in 2022 or so as well. That's rumored to be Oscar Isaac. Maybe the deal wasn't done yet. They didn't announce it.
I was to say if that rumor becomes true, I'm very excited. I've already. This sounds really. That's something that like me and you always think about. But like, I believe there was a Moon Knight Vinylmation
There was, yeah.
back when and I remember seeing. I didn't know who Moon
I
Knight
have it.
was, but I really wanted that Vinylmation. I was like, man, this thing looks so cool. And then after watching Star Wars, I'm a huge Oscar Isaac fan. After watching him as Poe Dameron, so if this rumor becomes true, I'll be even more excited.
And for anybody that doesn't know anything about Moon Knight, his name is Mark Spector. The way that they announced this on the feed here is a complex vigilante who suffers from dissociative identity disorder. These multiple identities who live inside him are distinct characters in the series and will appear against a backdrop of Egyptian iconography. So apparently he gets like possessed by this Egyptian god. So he thinks. They don't know if it's really part of his dissociative identity disorder or if he really did. But his other personalities, other than Mark Spector, is Stephen Grant, a financier, and Jake Lockley, a cab driver. And so we'll see how that is. Directed by Mohammed Diab, and we'll see how that plays out.
Is this a TV show or a movie?
Yes, this is another series.
Okay. Kind of into it. I like the TV shows for the kind of like smallish more characters before they become like bigger. They're getting like the TV show, and then as it continues, maybe that's their plan. Maybe they're gonna be like, listen, if this works out, we're gonna do a movie. We're just gonna wait to see how
I'm sure they have signed up for contracts like that. Yeah. So here's another one that was just announced. So the Moon Knight and She-Hulk and Miss Marvel, those were all announced during D23, I think it was. So now we're getting to the shows that were brand new announcements. This one was kind of broken when I was in Disney, though. They announced it as the Nick Fury series. I think Deadline or Variety broke that. But now we know the official title is Secret Invasion. Starring Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, Ben Mendelsohn as Talos from Captain Marvel and Spider-Man Far From Home. So the way that the plot line of the comic series was a faction of shape-shifting Skrulls who have been infiltrating Earth for years. So if you remember, listener, if you remember from Captain Marvel and Spider-Man Far From Home, the Skrulls are the creatures that can shape-shift. And, was the main plot where we were kind of led to believe they were the bad guys. Turns out they weren't in Captain Marvel. And last we saw was, Talos taking over as Nick Fury in Far From Home, and Nick Fury being up in a space station with other Skrulls. In the comic book, I started reading Secret Invasion today, actually. Got through the first 3 issues out of 8, I think it was. So it really is a, Skrulls have infiltrated as the heroes. Like some of our heroes are Skrulls that have kind of been taking over for a certain length of time. So they kind of start getting exposed. There's kind of a fight about this. I think that's where they're going to be heading with this. So I think we might actually get more heroes and more stars in this show as some sort of big event series. Which a lot of people thought was going to be one of the next Avengers storylines, but I'm actually happy it's not. They have 6 to 8 hours now that they can do this run instead of trying to fit it in a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
I guess the other question, too, about it actually is the Skrulls were the good guys. Is this another faction of Skrulls that are the bad guys here? Because I don't see Talos and his people just randomly turning bad.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see a little bit more about this because I kind of felt like the Skrulls, in a way, I know that it wasn't meant to look like that, but something in me always kind of looked at them as more of a comedic part in that movie, or especially at the end of Far From Home when Nick Fury was actually Talos the whole time. We're supposed to be Talos the whole time. I guess it's one of those ones I need more information to. But you said it's also kind of brand new of an announcement, so I guess we'll have to just see how the announcements continue with it while everything else is getting released.
And I think this might tie into Captain Marvel 2. If this comes out in 2022, so is Captain Marvel 2. And, with it tying in with Talos and Nick Fury, maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe we'll get a tie-in. Maybe Brie Larson and some characters from there is going to be in this show. We'll see, I guess. We do have 2 other shows to talk about here that are kind of, I feel like, linked together as well. We got Ironheart, which is coming out either in 2022 or 2023. Already been cast. Nobody broke this news. This was not on Deadline or Variety or anything, so it's kind of crazy that, like, it had leaked that they were working on Ironheart, but nobody, usually you get those, this person's in talks, but we didn't even get that for this show. Dominique Thorne is going to be Riri Williams, who creates her own Iron Man armor. I did read some Ironheart earlier this year. I actually really dug that run from, I think, 2018. So she's a smart college girl that creates her own armor, and this in the comics she took up the mantle when I think Tony Stark was either presumed dead or he was in a coma or something. I don't remember. But she changed her name to Ironheart, so she was different than Iron Man and stuff like that. But I enjoyed it. Some people don't like her. She's a very new character as well. I think that this is good.
Yeah, I'll have to do a little learning about her, because this is the first time I've actually heard of the character. Was when they announced it.
Yeah, I think she's like so new. Like, she's newer than Miss Marvel was, and that's still a very new character. So her first appearance was 2015, or 2016 actually.
Yeah, I'll definitely. Hopefully, there's more information. I know, obviously, there will be more information coming out as things get closer.
Yeah, they'll probably start filming next year at some point. Actually, if they're going to try to get it out for 2022, at some point next year, we'll probably get some more news. And then Armor Wars, which was announced as starring John Cheadle as James Rhodes, aka War Machine. And the way that they announced this was, what happens if Tony Stark's tech falls into the wrong hands? Find out in the newly announced Marvel Studios Armor Wars coming to Disney+. And I was wondering, with these 2 shows being announced back to back, if they are somehow tied into each other, like the armor falling into the wrong hands, maybe somehow like something like the blueprints get leaked, and somehow that's why Riri makes her own suit, but also villains like Justin Hammer maybe comes back and making his own suit. Some bad guys doing stuff like that. I love Justin Hammer, so I would love that. Sam Rockwell was great.
It's one of my favorite all time, because it's Iron Man 2, right? Where they're in the courtroom.
Yes.
And he's like popping up the screen. He's like, Hammer Industries looks like it's like, I would say 20 years behind there or something like that.
I just also love Justin Hammer like dancing onto the stage at the end, like at the World Expo, Stark Expo or whatever.
That would be fun to bring him back, especially with Tony Stark obviously, dying in Endgame. Like, I don't want that to be the end of the people kind of next to him in a way,
associated with him.
Yeah, like I don't want that to be the end of Rhodey. Obviously, Happy was with Spider-Man, but I want to see more of the characters that were close to him as well, because then it's just kind of sad at the end of it.
Maybe we get Jon Favreau back as Happy in the series too.
I would love that. I think I love him. I enjoyed him on Friends as Pete Becker. But
we always come back to that. We always come back to Jon Favreau on Friends.
That's the first thing I ever saw, man. I always think it's crazy to think he played that character in Friends, and then he becomes like Happy in the MCU.
And a huge director, directing all these Disney films and creating The Mandalorian.
That's true.
Absolutely crazy. So this one was a weird announcement that nobody really had pegged at all here. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, coming out Christmas time of 2022, filming at the same time as Volume 3, which is supposed to come out in 2023, written and directed by James Gunn. If people don't know, there was a very famous Star Wars holiday special that came out in like 1978 that a lot of people thought was
really?
Yeah, you'll never see it unless you find it on YouTube, because people just talk about how like George Lucas hated it. He did it and it got slammed, and he just never associates anything with it. It's never been released again.
I'm gonna have to find it.
It
I didn't know.
Yeah, so I think that's what James Gunn and John Favreau was actually a big fan of the holiday special, and some of the references from Mandalorian are from the holiday special, like in the first episode with the Mithril talking about Life Day. Like that's this holiday they're celebrating in the holiday special of Star Wars. So James Gunn is a fan of the holiday special as well, and this is going to be their way of poking fun of it, I guess, is with creating the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. And people were, I was listening to a podcast and they said, what's the over-under of Groot being dressed up as a Christmas tree at some point in this?
I'm going to say right now, and because I know the next thing is I am Groot. I'm not a huge Groot fan. I enjoyed him in the first one, but then the moment it became Baby Groot and Teenage Groot, I don't think I really enjoyed him until he chops his arm off to help finish making, was it Stormbreaker?
Yeah.
In Infinity War. Like, from Baby Groot to that moment, I wasn't a fan.
Well, you're not a fan of Grogu either, really, so I'm going to say not surprising.
I don't like baby characters.
You like Baby Pooh, though, don't you?
The 101 Dalmatians. I love the parents, but man, the 99 puppies they had.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I think it's because I like.
You just don't like cute, cuddly things, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know either. I wish I understood why. I loved Groot in Guardians of the Galaxy, but something about like how crazy Baby Groot got made me like, it almost like shut me off to Groot. I was like, okay, like, can you just become adult Groot again?
Well, I assume he's going to be adult Groot in this, since this is probably going to be closer to Volume 3. I'm assuming we get that back. But yeah, I'm excited for it. You know, get some. I'll now have an MCU thing to watch every Christmas after that, so that'll be something fun to enjoy. And as you alluded to, the I Am Groot is a series of shorts starring Baby Groot with several new and unusual characters joining him. So not much to go off on that. And Matt's least favorite show announced here. All right, let's get over to the 2022 and onward films here. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. That's March 25th, 2022. Go ahead.
I will do a midnight preview of that one, premiere of that one. That I am.
They don't really do the midnight anymore. You would just go on the Thursday showing.
But in hypothetical, if there was a midnight, if we were back in the midnight premiere days, I would 100% do it for that one. I'm so excited. Between Benedict Cumberbatch and, you know, the fact that this is also, there's supposed to be like a kind of like a scary movie. Like, didn't they say that? Like, it's supposed to have some sort of like that.
And directed by Sam Raimi, who does a lot of horror films.
Yeah, I think that movie is going to be. That movie should be what catapults Spider-Man 3 into a Spider-Verse after that movie, after Multiverse of Madness. Something should happen. There should be some sort of collision course at the end with these movies.
I can see that. Also stars Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, Rachel McAdams as Palmer, Benedict Wong is back as Wong. I don't know if I can pronounce his first name. Chiwetel Ejiofor, I know that's how you say his last name, is Mordo. Elizabeth Olsen is as Wanda Maximoff. And Xochitl Gomez is America Chavez. That's announced here. So America Chavez is another new comic character who was raised by her mothers Amalia and Elena in the Utopian parallel. So she's not actually from our Earth. She's in a dimension of time and space. And she appears to have inherited or absorbed some of her superpowers from the Demiurge's ambient magical presence. One of her powers, which is going to be very relevant here to Multiverse of Madness and why she's in this, is she has the rare ability to smash open star-shaped portals that enable her to traverse the multiverse. So that's how she's probably going to play a big role in this as well.
That's an interesting superpower.
It is. She has other powers too, like flight and stuff. But yeah, that is
a very specific superpower.
Well, I guess because she's coming from the utopian parallel, that's her only way to get anywhere else. I guess I'm not really sure. I haven't read anything with America Chavez. Like I said, she's a very new character as well. Also known as Miss America is one of her character names. And this movie is directed by Sam Raimi, like I mentioned before. He directed the original Spider-Man trilogy that also had a reference to Doctor Strange in there. When J. Jonah Jameson is trying to come up with names for Dr. Octopus, he says Doctor Strange, and he's like, no, that one's taken. So that was a nice reference to Doctor Strange there. Now he gets to direct a Doctor Strange film, so it should be a good time. Looking forward to that one a lot. It's been pushed back. It was supposed to be May of next year, and it's now March of 2022. It's a shame.
Yeah. At least it's not a whole year pushback. I guess
that's true.
We want to take a
but just knowing we would only be like 6 months away from it, and now we're so much farther away.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot to go, though. We got a lot to go before it, so hopefully it's like everything got pushed back at some point, but at least we have so much to see.
That's the only good thing about having this year off is that we're about to just get like bam, 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 bam.
It's gonna be overwhelming.
It will, yeah, it probably will. And what a great time to start a podcast about it. So Thor, Love and Thunder, May 6, 2022, starring, this was pushed back now, because it was originally supposed to be, I think, Doctor Strange in February, and then Thor in March, and they've just kind of moved those around. Thor, starring Chris Hemsworth. Natalie Portman is back as Jane Foster, also known in this movie as AKA the Mighty Thor. Tessa Thompson is back as Valkyrie. There's rumors of the Guardian showing up. And right after I did these notes, Deadline reports that Jamie Alexander is back as Sif. And Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. So I put some notes here. For people that don't know who Gore the God Butcher is, he was born on a planet with no name and almost every day was on the brink of starvation. He was taught to trust in the gods, but they never answered his prayers. At an early age, his mother and father died, leaving Gore to fend for himself in the harsh environment. Years later, he married and fathered some children. However, most of them died. And Gore's pregnant mate, Ara, was killed during an earthquake. And one by one, his children perished until he was left with one son, Agar. When Agar was on the brink of death due to starvation, Gore sought to ease his suffering and told his son they would soon reach a forest where they would never go hungry again. That's all from Marvel Wiki there. His motive for why would he become a God Butcher? He had all this stuff go wrong, right? Well, he was shocked by the realization that gods did exist. He never actually believed in them after everything going wrong. Okay? So he became enraged when he ran into these two gods who were fighting. And he uses his new weapon, which was the all-black, the Necro Sword, to kill the gold-armored god, and then vowed to seek vengeance against all gods for never answering his prayers. And what do we know? Thor is a god. And that's where I think most of this is going to be coming from. And I think if they do this right, Christian Bale can probably knock this out of the park as a sympathetic Gore the God Butcher.
I'm pretty excited for this movie too, especially Thor Ragnarok was honestly one of my favorite MCU movies. So I'm excited to kind of continue on with. Hopefully, it's the same Thor, or I don't know. Did they say is it going to be Fat Thor? Is he still like a thing?
I would assume he would probably have lost some weight by then. I'm not sure though.
But Thor Ragnarok kind of brought me back into the excitement of Thor, because Thor Dark World was one of my least favorite movies. So
Yes.
to continue moving Thor, plus it's one of the few characters. It's one of the only main original Avenger characters that's getting another movie after kind of like the Infinity Saga. So he's still continuing on, which is also just exciting. Because after Thor Ragnarok, I really enjoyed him as a character. I thought he was great in Infinity War. And then once he had got the haircut and he lost the eye in Thor Ragnarok, he just became so much cooler. Christian Bale as a villain is going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think this is going to be good. Taika Waititi back, directing.
That's what I thought too. I was like, I didn't see that in your note, but I was like, I was pretty certain he was the one directing it.
Yeah. He's doing that, and that's why I think his Star Wars film is going to be the 2025 one, because of it. He's going to be working on this one for a bit. Yeah, but he's back, and I think we got Jane Foster back. I never thought Natalie Portman would come back to the franchise, and if you don't know anything about her becoming the Mighty Thor, she at some point gets the Thor powers as well, becomes worthy enough to hold the hammer, and is dying of cancer and is going through chemotherapy. But every time she becomes Thor and wields the hammer, it actually reverses any of the chemotherapy effects. So she's actually every time that she is becoming Thor, she's kind of reversing and the stuff that's healing her, and she's actually kind of slowly killing herself. But she has to do it to save people. That's how it is in the comics anyway. So we'll see if that's how it is in the movie. Black Panther 2. This was announced July 8th, 2022 is when that's going to be coming out. Kevin Feige stated for everyone to hear, T'Challa will not be recast due to the unfortunate passing of Chadwick Boseman, and that the sequel will continue to explore the incomparable world of Wakanda and all the rich and varied characters introduced in the first film. This will be written and directed by Ryan Coogler as well. He directed and wrote Black Panther. So I guess that means maybe we get like a Shuri as Black Panther, or we're going to be following probably Shuri and Baku and all of the characters.
I'm sure there'll be another villain in there too. Obviously, it's the right move not to recast T'Challa. I wish Michael B. Jordan was back in it. I love. I'm having such a hard time with names.
Killmonger.
God, I don't know why. I'm losing it. Killmonger is my favorite villain in the entirety of MCU. So I kind of wish he was still able to be in the movie, or if they were going to bring him back, which I know is not easy to do in terms of how Black Panther ended. But I think this one's interesting to see what is going to be the plan. How are they going to start the movie off? How do you pass it down to Shuri? How is it going to go? I feel like it's going to be I don't think anyone's going to know. I don't think there's going to be any leaks. I think it's going to be very well kept, and you're not going to know much until you actually see the movie, which I think should be the right way they do it. I don't think they should tell us what the plan is. Or at least I hope they don't, because I'd like to see.
Well, we'll get something from trailers, I think, but
I think they should try. If they can, the more they can keep secretive or under wraps, I think the better, because I know it can be, I guess in a way it can be like something just as, she's now the queen of Wakanda or something. Like, obviously you could do it like that, but I think the more they keep under wraps, the better it'll be.
Captain Marvel 2 got pushed to November 11th of 2022. Iman Vellani, who's playing Miss Marvel, is going to star in it with Brie Larson and Tiona Paris from WandaVision, and it's directed by Nia DaCosta. So maybe we get we're gonna get some tie-in there with Miss Marvel, and gonna probably be one of the first instances of a Disney Plus character jumping to one of the mainline films.
Looks like Yeah, I'd say it looks like that's what it's going to be. Based off of the different movies and shows coming out, this will be the first one.
And then, surprise, we actually got a name and title for Ant-Man and the Wasp, the third Ant-Man film, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Is this really going to be the real title? Maybe they're avoiding some spoilers there, but I think it is, and I think it means that we're going to get some more Quantum Realm stuff, and that's going to probably be 2023, starring Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, Evangeline Lilly as Hope Van Dyne, Michael Douglas as Dr. Hank Pym, Michelle Pfeiffer as Janet Van Dyne. Catherine Newton is going to be taking over as Cassie Lang, the recasting from Emma Furman, who was in Endgame. And we got Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror, as I talked about, I think, an episode or two ago, directed by Peyton Reed. And here's my thoughts before we get through this. I think that with everything going on, I think I kind of see the through line of this phase, okay? So, like we mentioned before with the time travel multiverse stuff that we're going to be getting in Doctor Strange, we're going to be getting in Loki, WandaVision, Spider-Man. Kang the Conqueror is a villain that likes to conquer different time periods. Okay, like he travels through time and is kind of, so the original way that it was is that he is from like the, like 31st century or whatever. Like he's from the future. He takes over, different periods. He goes way too far in the future at one point and realizes that nothing's left. Like it's all barren wasteland pretty much. And he decides that he is going to try to prevent that. And he's going to try to make sure that never happens. So he wants to become the Conqueror earlier in time here as well. So that way he can try to make sure it never happens, etc., etc. He's also a pretty well-known Young Avengers villain, and we have Cassie Lang here recasted. We have now all these Young Avengers who are coming up in TV shows, like Kate Bishop and Miss Marvel. Maybe we're going to get the Young Avengers and Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. But also I'm thinking maybe Kang the Conqueror is that next big villain, and that this is going to be one step of it here before we keep going. But that he's going to be upset with them messing with the time stream in Endgame, and everything kind of fluctuating from that onward is what I think might be a good through line. And I think with them announcing Fantastic Four, which we'll get to in a bit here as well, he's a very well-known Fantastic Four villain as well. So maybe he appears in that film as well. We don't know.
No, it makes sense. The way you describe him too, he honestly sounds like he sounds more impressive than Thanos, because Thanos is just about the one universe they're in and trying to make sure it doesn't turn out like his planet. But this one, the way you just kind of said it, makes it sound like he's like the Thanos for all the universes or all the timelines. Like he doesn't want to see them end up how he saw it, similar to how Thanos saw his planet kind of go extinct. It sounds like a good villain to have after a good main villain to have after the Thanos portion in the Infinity Saga.
Yeah, I'm pumped if Kang is the next big villain. If this is a big stretch here, for Kang here.
I'm looking at pictures of what he looks like in the comics. He doesn't look as like big, but he looks more terrifying than Thanos.
Yeah, he's got like the weird blue mask with the purple and green. Yeah, and I think it's going to be like I said, I think this is what we might be building to here. I guess we'll see. That's what a lot of people are thinking, so maybe that's not what's going to happen. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, that's coming at some point as well. And then the big announcement here, Fantastic Four being directed by John Watts, who directed Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home. This is where I question, maybe it's linked to Quantumania, with Kang, who knows, or maybe we get Doctor Doom. That's another big villain that the Fantastic Four has. They also have Galactus. I mean, they have a lot of big villains that they're going to start bringing in with Fantastic Four, I think, and that'll set us up for years to come, if you can just imagine with all this stuff going on here. Yeah, he was actually the villain in the Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer from the early 2000s, but they did him as just like this evil cloud instead of what he actually is. Oh. He's somebody that eats planets, Galactus. So could be something like that.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. Man, so here we are. That's everything. And just to wrap up here, Matt, what is the most anticipated thing that you were looking forward to on this other than Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
I think it's going to have to go back to the Multiverse of Madness or Spider-Man 3. I guess in a way you can kind of put them together. I feel like those two are going to end up having some sort of... They're going to be together in a way. Whether it's something to do with the end of the movie, or are they going to, in a way, follow each other but not really be considered sequels because they're different characters. But I think those two movies are going to play a big role, kind of how you said in the whole ending it with the Quantumania with Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think in terms of the progression of this second set of the MCU, or however they're going to call it, like the second main saga, I think those two movies are going to set up the main portion of it. They're going to set up either how we're going to get to this multiverse, how we're going to get to maybe Kang being the main villain. But those two movies, not only because I love Tom Holland and Benedict Cumberbatch as the Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, so I think they're going to be great movies in a standalone way, but I think they are there's a lot of TV shows coming out, which is going to be great, but obviously Marvel's big thing that everybody got into was the movies, and I just think those two movies are going to be what progress the storyline more than anything else that's coming out. And so we're going to get that jumping off point to where we get to the next big battle, and we're going to look at those as the movies that set it up. And that's why I'm most excited for those two. It's hard to pick, really. I don't think I could pick which one I'm more excited for, because honestly, Homecoming and Far From Home are two of my favorite movies, and Doctor Strange is one of my favorite movies. I just can't pick between the two of them.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm not really sure what... if I'm looking at 2021, my most anticipated is probably, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. If we're avoiding that one, I'm really excited for Miss Marvel or Hawkeye in there. Spider-Man 3, obviously. Spider-Man is my favorite Marvel hero, so really looking forward to that. If we're looking at past that, 2022 and onward, Secret Invasion sounds really great, and I'm also really down for Fantastic Four, whenever that is. Fantastic Four are great characters. I can't wait to see them done right through Marvel Studios and the MCU.
Have they announced who's playing them yet?
No. That was literally the first confirmation we actually had of it happening. The next thing I'm looking forward to is X-Men at some point, please, hopefully. Like Wolverine. Even if you add some of them in here, you can add some of those X-Men in here. X-Men as a TV show might even work really well, because there's just so many X-Men characters. You can really flesh them out on the shows and then bring them into a film as well. Mm-hmm. But out of what's announced, Fantastic Four, I'm always down for Ant-Man as well. So with that having Kang, I'm really looking forward to that as well. But
I think those movies are those movies are gonna play a role and tie together into something bigger. The Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and Ant-Man, because
yes, I think so.
The names are not too similar, but you can just see it in the name of the movie or the plot line that they've released. They're not going to be just extensions of the character already. They're going to be story progressors. They're going to bring into the next big villain. They're going to bring into the next big plot line that you need. I think those are going to be really big to the next set of movies.
I agree. So I think we're all in agreement that this is a bright time to be looking forward to it here. And the good thing about their shows, if they're usually 6 episodes, then yes, it's a lot of shows, and people will be like, "How can I catch up on all this?" But it's really like an hour each Friday that you're really just sitting down to watch these. If you
And
don't
they're
let
not,
these things combine, if you don't let them stack
yeah, I
up.
would say, and they're not releasing any of this. It seems like at the same time. So it's not like you're gonna have to sit there and go, oh man, I gotta watch an episode of Hawkeye, and I gotta watch an episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I gotta watch an episode of Loki. It's like, no, these things are coming out at separate times so that you can put your focus into it instead of having to try to remember every plot line week after week as you watch 3 different shows. If you watch them when they come out, you're not going to have an issue. There shouldn't be any issue with it.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, it seems like definitely they built in at least like 2 weeks between these as well. So you even have time if you need to take some time and catch up with them before the next show premieres. I think you have that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps us up. We went on for about 2 hours. So I think that wraps us up here. Like I said, I maybe I'll do another episode with Logan at some point here. He couldn't make it, unfortunately. But other than that, I'm going to be building up to WandaVision. And maybe we can have Matt. Maybe you can come on for Falcon and the Winter Soldier in March.
Sounds good. I'm excited for that. I'm really excited for that TV show.
It's going to be great. I'm just glad we got a premiere date too. Like these shows are already done, filmed. They're actually coming. These are not going to be pushed back. These are filmed. They're in the can.
I would say that's like the one thing that also helps is that they're coming now. It's not like is it going to get pushed back? No, like these are official dates. The show's filmed. We're legitimately going to see it, and we don't have to worry about that.
So exciting. Disney's about to have a whole bunch more other than The Mandalorian as an original series in these big franchises, and it's going to be great to see, and cannot wait to watch all of these and be talking about these weekly here on the show. So thanks, Matt, for coming on, and we will catch you all next time.